Guys, welcome back to another tutorial. In this one, I'm going to be showing you how to set up a Django and React application. This is a finished product, just a basic something to get you going with the setup and show you how to actually match a front-end application like React and the backend side like Django together. As you can see, we are running this application with the Django default 127 server. And this is just a basic stuff. Like I promised you guys, this particular tutorial is going to be the beginning of the React and Django series I promised that I'm going to be doing, which is going to capture a whole lot of applications, a whole lot of features, different things you can do with Django and React. Buckle up and get ready to learn something inspiring. Without wasting your time, let's start coding. See you in the backside. Alright guys, welcome back to the tutorial. I have already set up a very simple folder that I've created and opened my CMD. I believe before you decide to set up a React and Django application, you must have probably been developing projects and working on different applications using Django for a while. So this particular tutorial is not actually for novice, it's for somebody who has experience working with Django. Now, setting up a React and Django application has different ways of actually doing that. And the one I'm going to be setting up right here, you can call it something that can actually go for production. Because what I'm going to be setting up is a kind of a React and Django application that have matched together and is working in one server. The purpose of doing it this way is because I just wanted to show you this approach for the project setting up. Then when we start building like a normal proper application that we are developing, then we will run the React in a separate server while running our backend in a separate server. Normally, the way the full stack team works with React and Django is just very simple. What Django does is to power the application and also provide APIs that bring out response that is readable, understandable by humans. To actually save time, let me quickly set up a Django application. This is how I set up my virtual environment. There are different ways to do this, but you can choose to use my own pattern. Once this is done, I will go ahead and activate my virtual environment. Okay, go ahead and activate this virtual environment I created. Okay, now let me quickly install Django. Okay, now that I've set up my Django, the next thing is to quickly set up a Django project. So we can do Django admin, start project. Let's call it full stack. Okay, cd into full stack. Now what I'm going to do is to just quickly create one app, which is our front-end app. That app, let's call it front-end. Okay, now let me clear this out. Oops. Now open my VS Code. We are done with this, so we can have this setup. Okay, before we continue, I want us to quickly understand some certain things I think is very, very important. And I have identified some of the things we are going to be using to actually set up this whole project. So I'm going to be explaining everything. I have put them in this note here. Let me see if I can zoom this a little bit. Okay, so what the npm initY does for us is that it will help us to create a package.json file that will have all our dependencies inside of it. Now, this is just a different way of doing this, but like I said, I'm setting up this project to actually be matched together and use one server so we can have it ready for production kind of setting. Now, once you do this npm initY, it will go ahead and create a package.json file. Then the next step is to install Webpack. Webpack is the tools that will help us to bundle JS modules among other tasks related to front-end development. Webpack will allow us to bundle our JS files together. It can also help us to bundle other assets that we need from the static side, that's the front end, such as CSS, images, any other kind of asset files that you have. Webpack will make that possible. So once you do that, the next one we are going to install is the Babel/core Babel Leader. What it does is that it is a core package of the Babel JS compiler. It provides basic functionality for parsing and also transforming and generating JS code. It is the loader for Webpack. Right? It allows the Webpack to work seamlessly with our Babel. Now, the next one is this Babel/preset-env and the preset React. Now, for the preset React, this one is the one that helps us to bundle our React. It's just a preset of React. While for the preset env, what the preset env does is that it is a Babel preset that enables you to use the latest JavaScript syntax without worrying about compatibility issue. This is what the preset MB does for us. Now, the next thing after this we will install is the React DOM. The React DOM is a package that serves as the entry point to the document object model. That's the DOM model, right? Now, it serves as the renderer for React. And we are going to be using this package when we start working. The next one is, I know it has a whole lot of packages, right? But don't worry. The point is to familiarize yourself with all these things, because at one point or the other, you will use them. So for this Babel/plugin/transform-class properties, what this one does is that it is also a Babel plugin that transforms our static files to properties and private instance property without the need for a constructor. With this Babel plugin transform in place, we don't need to worry about placing our class directly into the body of our code without worrying about constructor. The React router DOM is what makes it possible for us to be able to direct our URL. With this React router DOM, it provides routing capabilities for our React application. Now, likewise, the CSS loader. This one is very, very self-explanatory. It helps us to be able to load our CSS. Likewise, our style loader. Now, with this being understood, we are almost ready to start setting up our application from where we stopped. Let me quickly open up the terminal here. Let's go to our settings so that I will add the installed app that we have currently installed. We called it Frontend, right? Okay, save this. I think that's all for our settings.py. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cd into full stack and I will cd into Frontend. But before I continue, I'm going to quickly do one thing. I'm going to come into our front-end app here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to create another folder, our source folder. Then I will create another folder. I will call it our static folder. Create another folder for templates. Okay. Then I think that's all. Now, the first thing I'm going to do before I come back to adding more things here, what I'm going to do is to quickly do npm init. Why? Then let's run that. Okay, as you can see, package.json file has been created for us. The next thing I'm going to do, let's install this one. Let's put it here. While this is installing, I will go back and copy this one for our Babel loader. Just install everything at once. Okay, this is still installing. Okay, so while this is done, let me zoom it a little bit so you guys can be seeing. I want you guys to be able to see what's going on. All right, let's install the Babel loader. Go back and copy this one. Come back to our terminal. Okay, let me even close this. I don't need it anymore. Let's just stick with the one from our VS Code. Okay, clear this out. We have installed Babel loader, right? So let's install this one. While this is running, we'll go back here, copy the one for our React DOM. Maybe I can add these notes in my GitHub code for this project. Maybe it might help you guys, so you will not be making mistake when you're installing all these dependencies. Now, while the React DOM is running, we'll go back and copy the one for our Babel plugin transform. Okay, that was fast for that, clear. Let's do this again, enter. While this is going on, we copy the one for our React router DOM. Okay, this is not done. Okay, now let's paste this one. While that is installing, we'll copy this. Install the CSS loader. Come back and copy the one for our style loader. Okay, while all this is going on, let's see if we installed everything properly. React router DOM has been installed. You can also look at what's going on in the package.json file to just make sure that everything is installing properly. Now, based on what I've seen here, I think we are ready to go. Let me clear this out. We are almost done with setting this up. Inside this our front-end folder here, I'm going to quickly create another file and we are going to call it, let me take you back to this note. I'm going to come back to this script. So we're going to open a babel.config.json. Let me paste this here. Yeah, it's something we need to copy and put there. I don't think you have to worry about that. But if you're somebody that worries about everything, then maybe you can dig deep. I want you to take note, right? This is the Node version that I'm using currently for this project. Your Node version might be higher. So to understand your Node version, you can just type node -v. It will bring out your Node version. Sorry, node -version, right? 18.6.0. That's what I'm using. That is what I set here. So for you, your own version might be different, so that when you're copying, you will not just copy without changing your own Node version. With that being understood, I think one of the things I forgot to capture in this project is that for you to be able to use React, you have to have Node installed in your system. So I believe you guys should know that, but you have to have that installed. The next file I'm going to open is the webpack.config.json file. This is going to help our front end to understand what it needs to do with the webpack. There is already a setup available. I'm going to also copy this, especially here. I want you to take note of something. Inside this file, I'm setting an entry, source index.html, and I'm also setting the entry for our static/front end, right? If you come down, I added a style loader for our CSS so that our webpack will understand what's going on. I also have our environment, process.env, that has effect on the React library size. Okay, with these settings out of the way, I'm going to save, close this. The last thing we are going to do, I'm going to come back here. I'm going to change the script of our package.json, because if I leave it the way it is, it's not going to use webpack. We need our script to use webpack. So I'm going to paste this here. As you can see, it has the dev webpack -- mode development -- watch blah 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 stuff. I have pasted that and I've also saved. With this setup out of the way, we're almost done, but we need to do one more thing before we run our script to make sure everything is working. Come back here, open up another terminal. So for this one, we already have our front end, right? So what I'm going to do here is to activate our virtual environment, activate. Then I will cd into full stack. Once I do that, I will go ahead and run our server. Run server, right? Now what I'm going to do, forget about the migration. We are not really doing anything, just to set up a project. So what I'm going to do here is to do npm run dev. Let's see what happens for our front end side. Okay, so there are some things that our front end is not seeing. I needed to do something. Inside this our source here, I'm going to create a new file, index.js, right? Because of that's what I set. Terminate this and clear. Let's run it again. Okay, let's look at what has happened in our static folder. So in our static folder, we have this. Webpack has been able to compile our source with the index.js. What I'm going to do next is that inside my template here, okay, let me start from the src. So inside this src here, I'm going to create another folder. I'm going to call it components. Inside the components, let me remove this. We're going to come back to this. Now inside the component, let me also create another folder, call it pages. We're going to use this to set up the page for our home. Okay, come to my views here. In these views, I'm just going to create a dev index. For the index, I'm going to do request. Okay, yeah, so in our templates, we have to create another folder, call it front end. Inside the front end, I will create a file, index.html. Inside this index.html file, let's do this. Let's change this to be React Django. Inside the body, add load static. Now below, I'm going to do link, add our CSS. I'm going to create a file for that shortly. Static. Then here I'm going to do css/index.css. Let's close this tag. Then for this body, create a div. Inside this div, I'm going to do id equals to main, right? Inside this div, I'll create another sub div. Inside this one, I'll just add another id app. Then below here, add our JavaScript script. Then inside it, I'm going to put source. For the source, I will add static frontend main.js. This particular main.js, because that's the way we are going to be able to interact with our application. Close this. Let me quickly run this our urls.py. I don't need to create any separate one for the app. We are just trying to do a basic setup of React and Django. Import from frontend.views, import, I think is index I used, right? Then for here, I will do parts. With this basic setup, we are done with adding our backend and our frontend together. In this component, create a new file, call it app.js. Okay, now inside this one, I will do import app from ./component. You can import it like this, but I always prefer to add the .js. Now close this out, come here. In our app.js, what I'm going to do is that, okay, let me do ref this, import array, but I'm going to just change this. I don't want to use it this way. I want to use a function instead. What I will do is function, let's use app, right? Do return hello world. Yeah, we can try this. Then I will come here and do const in the root I will do create root. Yeah. Okay, you know what? Let me import this up here. Let's import create root React DOM. Let's do /client. Then here, what I will now do is root. Inside here, I will do document.getElement by ID. Then I will set it to be app. Then below, I will do root.render. Then inside this our render, I will call our app function that we created there. Okay, now with this setup, let's see. So if we go back here and refresh this, let's see. You can see we are having an empty page. That means we're almost good to go. But inside this our empty page, normally it's meant to show me this hello world. Let me do some settings. Inside the static, I need to create a folder, call it CSS. Now I'll also create another folder, images, because we'll put images here. Inside this one, I will create index.css. Inside the index.css, what I'm going to do is for the ID app, the main I will do save. Okay, yeah, let's come back here, refresh this. Let's quickly inspect because I think something is wrong. Look at our console. Refuse to execute script from main.js. Okay, so let's go back to our index. Okay, test/css. Oh, I did not close this tag here. Close it. Now let's refresh this. The error is gone. Okay, now I think the reason why I cannot see this thing is because, let's remove this. It's because this thing is black, and I think that text is default here. As you can see, hello world, you made it. You have been able to set up your React and Django application working and interacting with each other. That was quite simple, don't you think so? Now with this setup out of the way, I'm going to close down this so we don't need to do anything there. Even our HTML, this particular one is done. We don't need to do anything. We'll do something here. We don't need to do anything here. Close this so we can be arranging everything and be going with the flow. Now the next thing we are going to do is let's set up a proper environment just for the home page. Let me set up the navbar first. Let's do navbar.js. Okay, now what I'm going to do in the navbar.js is I'm going to set up a function. First, let's do import React from React. The next thing I'm going to do, we are going to set up a CSS. I don't want to be wasting time with the CSS thing. So just to be on a faster pace, I'm going to come to our static here where we have the CSS. Let me first of all create this file, navbar.css. I already have the CSS properly set up. Let me quickly copy it and paste it here. Then we'll move on to setting up the navbar.js. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm also going to copy the image. I think the only thing I need is about 2 images. So I'm going to quickly copy some images and put it in these images and come back here. Okay, now I have copied the images I need, just the 2 images. Now inside is our nav. The next thing I'm going to do here is to import this our CSS. So first thing I'm going to set up a function, navbar. Now inside this function, initialize, don't need any props. Then inside the function, I will return full bracket so that inside here I will create my navbar, add navbar. I think I did navbar container. Now let's add the href / for home. Then I will add the class name. Inside it I will do navbar. This one will house our navbar logo. Okay, close this. Then the next one I'm going to add a UI. For the UL I'm going to put class name to be equals to navbar-menu li. So for this one they are just dummies. Let's add a class name. No, let's do navbar link. I think so. I'm going to change this one to be about. They are just dummy links that I want to use and make it look like a normal nav link. So change this one to be about. Change this one to be service. Okay, so delete these 2. I don't need it. Let's add a div here so that inside this div I will just put everything there. Close it. Let's move this our class name to this our div. Put it here. Then as this one, let me put this here. Bring this one down and paste it there. Okay. I think everything is looking not bad. So for the UI, I have the navbar menu. Then inside it, I have the li where I use the navbar item. So save. What I can do is to quickly format this thing. Let's use Sprite here. Let's save it. Now to show this, we have to go back to our app here. We are going to import it to from ./navbar.js. Inside here, I'll just use this empty tag and put this here. Come down, paste it. I'm going to remove this. Come here. I'm going to add div. Come down here. What I'm going to do, let's add the nav here. Remove this one. Let's save. Something is wrong with our code. It's not seeing our CSS here. So let's go back here. Let me remove this first dot here. Save it and see. Okay, I did not export my nav.js. That's the problem. So what I have to do is to come down. Immediately this is done, I will do export. Now let's see. I don't think there's no more error. Go back, refresh again. About services contact. Okay, but it's not showing properly. So if you click on this, it takes you to this and that. Alright, something is wrong. Probably the way I handled the CSS or my navbar is wrong. So what I'm going to do is let's cross check. So if you look at this, my container here is navbar container and I used capital navbar there. So let's save, go back, refresh this. Okay, so you can see we now have a simple navbar. Now we're almost done. Let me quickly set up the one for our home and also the header. Inside our component, create another file, call it header.js, and inside here we'll do the same thing, import React from React. Then I will do, let me also quickly get the CSS, import it, create the CSS file, call it header.css. Let me quickly add the CSS that I've already set up and come back. Okay, I've added the CSS. Now let's go ahead and set up the header.js. To import the CSS, I will do the same thing like this. So what I will do here, I will do const header. I will set it equals to this. Then I will do an arrow function. Then inside our function, I will use return. And in my return, what I'm going to do, set up a div. Inside the div, header. Nope, use this to get the header background because I don't want to pull up the image directly from here. But in subsequent videos, when we start building real projects, we'll have to be importing our images directly. But because I don't want to install the loader that will make that possible, that's why I'm just avoiding bringing the image directly from here. Okay, so when I add this, our header background, let me add another div. For this div, I will use it to add the header content. I will put the head to, then I will just, oops. So inside this, my H2, I will put tech. So we'll just maintain the word of what I showed you guys. Tech level up at ease peak. Then I'll put a p tag. Okay, now I'll add a dummy button. Then as usual, let's come down and do export default header. Okay, cross check and make sure everything looks good. The first one is the header. Okay, now with this setup, we're almost done, but the next thing I'm going to do, because I'm not going to import this directly into my app.js, I will come to my pages here. I will create a file. I will call it home.js. Now inside my home.js, as usual, we'll import React. Then I will import header. Then what I will do is I will do export const home equals to bracket. We'll do an arrow function. Inside my arrow function, return tab line completed that for me. Now we'll come to here. What I'm going to do in our app.js is quite very simple too. I'm going to now add routes. Instead of just displaying the nav by the way I'm doing it, I'm going to use browser routes. So I will do import, then do browser route, browser. But I don't only need this, I also need the routes. Those are the three things I need. Now what I'm going to do is come here. I'm now going to wrap everything here with the browser router. Put this here. Let the navbar be on top. Then for this home page, add routes here. And routes. Inside the routes, I'll add route. Okay, I think that's all for the setup. Let's cross check and make sure nothing is, everything is fine. Let's refresh. Okay, we are having error. We can inspect and try to figure out where the error is coming from our console here. Home is not defined. Okay, I did not import home here. Import home. Import home. This is it here. Is there any error here? Compiled. Let's refresh. Oh, this is our code. Guys, we did tech level up at his peak. We do the working. We believe in impossibility. See more. So you come here. This is our React and Django working. Now you can actually start building your APIs, making this application authenticated if you want, doing a bunch of whatever you want to do. That is it for this video. In the next video, this series is going to be very, very long. So I want you guys to buckle up your shoe because you're going to be learning a whole lot from me. I'm going to be building a bunch of different applications using React and Django. So I will advise you turn up your post notification so that you'll be notified when I drop more videos. I have had a whole lot of people asking me, do videos on React and Django, do videos on how to authenticate using the JWT tokens and all that. I'm going to be capturing all that. And I'm also going to be building wonderful applications. So guys, please turn up your post notification and keep it locked down because it's going to be going down for a very long time. I'm going to be doing a bunch of things with React and Django, and I'm going to be capturing all the whole process, making sure that whatever I teach is quite easy to use, easy to understand, and also easy to grasp. And please remember to subscribe. Subscription is free. It helps me to grow. I need to get to 1K sub before the end of the year. So I'm going to be working hard to make sure I teach you guys wonderful things. Thank you so much for sticking with me up to this time. I remain your humble servant, Joshua Vibe. Till we meet again, it's bye-bye for now. Peace out.